Hello, Vermonters. Back again to talk about another article. Today's actually a blog post that I have on AmericanThinker.com. August 25th is today. And this blog post is called "Vermont is the Canary in the Woke Coal Mine." Now, that's an allusion to a line I made in the article, but I don't draft the article titles. In this case, my draft title was Rebecca Balint and the Eye of Sauron. And that's what I discuss here, because this is actually meant to be an encouragement to all Vermonters, moderate Democrats and moderate Republicans combined, to fight the progressive invasion of our state. Many Vermonters saw that Becca Balint and Dave Zuckerman, amongst other extremist liberals, far-left liberals, invaded the Democratic primary and took it away from people like Molly Gray, who were more moderate or traditional blue dog, we might call them, Democrats, who were endorsed by Peter Welch and Patrick Leahy. But Becca Balint was endorsed by the national LGBTQIT, some extra letters in there, powers that be, and also Bernie Sanders. And they've destroyed our economy. As I've been explaining for years, our pensions are a disaster. Our schools are a disaster. Woke theories about gender and race are being introduced in our schools. Regressive taxes on the poor to pay for solar panels and other things. And Rebecca Balint boasts about active shooter drills and being an initiator of those, which now studies and even the Gifford Law Center show traumatize children as much as if they were involved in an active shooting incident. And she's boasting about it. And she says they're trying to ban the word gay. No, that's parents who are worried about pornographic novels like Gender Queer. And Dave Zuckerman says such parents are bigots. Has he looked at the gender hormone therapies for 5 and 10-year-olds that are available in Vermont right now and are part of the Proposal 5 Act 20 or Article 22 passage this year, is to guarantee these experimental and long-term sterilizing and damaging hormone therapies for young children behind parents' backs? That's H659. If you haven't looked at it, my opponent, Mark McDonald, would probably sign that in a heartbeat, because they're going to let children make these kinds of life-changing decisions at prepubescent ages. That's what we're told makes us bigots if we question it. What this article is about is how when Becca Balint and Dave Zuckerman, if you look at their content, they're running constantly on climate justice, social justice. We're going to create equity. We're going to make everything okay. They've proven for 20, 30 years while they destroy the pensions in our economy that they're not going to make it okay, that they're not representing all Vermonters, and that they're hurting moderate Democrats who understand their Constitution and math the way the rest of us do. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Vote for people who are fiscal conservatives. You don't have to become a Republican to do that. Linda Joy Sullivan and Cynthia Browning are running. They're going to be our auditor and treasurer. They can do math. They're moderate. They're not extremist. So the analogy I make with one of my favorite authors, JRR Tolkien, and The Lord of the Rings, is at the end of that series in the movie adaptation, the Eye of Sauron looks like he's won. And he's got all the orcs and the evils of the world and trolls and horrible, horrible things descending upon mankind, who are fighting with their mere mortality against this sort of great magical power. And while the Eye of Sauron, who's not omniscient, is looking out over the battlefield and about to destroy all humanity, 2 humble little hobbits crawl up through the back door and throw the ring of power into the fires of Mordor, and the whole scheme of evil collapses. The whole scheme of progressive evil, which is very much like the eugenics movement of 100 years ago, which we now condemn, or like the lobotomies that we were told were great, or a lot like the hormones we see now for young children in particular. It's all collapsing. The critical race theory and the social justice theory are almost indistinguishable from the eugenics movement. Instead of saying all black people are superior, they say all white people or all black people are inferior, they say all white people are superior. And instead of racially attacking black people, they're just racially attacking white people. They take money from poor white people, they give to rich black people. They're giving loans and other benefits to people who are, regardless of wealth. And they also then racialize everything, including police statistics and police arrests. Sarah George has been charged with being a racist because she's still incarcerating or charging black murderers at a higher rate than the underlying Vermont population. Well, that's because maybe they're guilty. And maybe it's about being treated equally before the law, regardless of skin color, instead of the opposite that's happening now. So what's happening is the magic utopian ideology of Sauron, which dominates the world of the far left, has infected the moderate left. And I talked to many Democrats who did not support Becca Balint and did not support Dave Zuckerman because they understand how extreme and far left that's gone. So while Zuckerman and Balint are talking about climate change, a lot of Vermonters, including a lot of Democrats, are saying, how am I going to pay for my heating oil? How am I going to keep filling my gas tank up to drive 45 minutes each way to work? Gee, it was the TCI and the Global Warming Solutions Act and these other progressive things that have made this so high. And even pushing for increased heating fuel taxes, as my opponent Mark McDonald did, so that they can save the world. And he said, if you don't like it, get a blanket. This is a tone-deaf disconnect from the Saurons, from the evil eye that has no critical eye at all towards policy, of what's really happening. And people on the ground, people who have common sense and have to live with the consequences of these bizarre, errant, utopian, eugenics-like policies, are rebelling. They're waking up. And they're the humble hobbits. Go out there if you're a conservative or a conservative, common sense Democrat and talk to people and tell them what's going on. And tell them, well, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to throw the ring of silly social justice ideology power, the one ring to rule them all, into the fires of Mordor. In a recent post-primary election email, Dave Zuckerman says, believe it or not, Vermonters still elect Republicans. And that's why you have to vote for me. Gosh, what a horrible thing that anybody would ever elect a Republican. And there is the total Sauronian fires of Mordor shown clear. The progressive wish to conquer everyone in their path. Certainly no Republican should be allowed to live there or even have those views. They're racist. They're horrible people. They want to destroy the environment. This is called dehumanizing people. And now they're doing it to people who are Democrats. And they're saying, gee, if you won't acknowledge that you're a racist, if you won't agree that we should have abortion up until the most extreme point in time, even though 79% of Vermonters oppose that, they're not representing the majority of Vermonters anymore, while Dave Zuckerman says he's representing all Vermonters. It's right there in the title. Can you imagine that Vermonters would ever elect another progressive? That I can imagine. But can you imagine a one-party system where there are no Republicans and traditional Democrats are forced to comply with the same stifling, errant, because it's all built on lies. It's what Thomas Sowell calls a seemingly invincible fallacy. Well, it's not invincible. It's a big fallacy. And like Sauron, when that ring of power gets thrown back into the evil pit from where it came, the whole Tower of Babel, the whole evil machination will just collapse. And we must look forward to that day. And we must join together with moderate Democrats, not demonize them in return, but embrace people to talk instead about policies. Instead of calling people names or calling them racists, let's talk about, well, what are the best policies for Vermonters? How do we fix the pensions that for 20 years have been in the hands of progressives? It's hard for them to blame the evil Trumpies for it because it's all been on their watch. And that pension system is closer to $10 billion in the red right now. It's unfunded so grotesquely. You watch, it's going to completely devour our budget and make it impossible to do anything else. We have to fix it. We have to fix it together, not pit state workers who are road workers as well as teachers against taxpayers who are on fixed incomes, while the people that created this disaster just retire. They've destroyed common sense and fiscal integrity in our state. It is time for those who have character and the ability and the education, like Linda Joy Sullivan and Cynthia Browning, to come together in the middle and fix it with civility and decency and actual critical thinking and people who can do math. So, as always, I'm very grateful for you to be listening to my video. I ask you to look at my articles, read them for yourself, and share them. And get a car sign, get a bumper sticker. Because when people read what I have to say, that's my goal. I don't get paid for my articles on American Thinker. I think I have 120 now. I have not made one dime. But I am very well rewarded when people read them and equip themselves with the truth so that they can go out and tell other people. That's the only way we break this Sauron-like evil eye from taking over our state of Vermont and laying waste to it and gentrifying it for those most wealthy and most out of touch and most hostile towards our traditional culture and our humble hobbits. So rise up, hobbits. Grab a piece of this ideology and draw it out in the light and burn it. And then let's come together and fix things together, again, with civility. I don't hate these people on the left because they don't realize how much they're going to destroy themselves. And the wealthier you are, the more you have to lose when it collapses. So let's be loving back. But I do hate some of your ideology. I really do hate it because it's so anti-Martin Luther King and so anti-balanced budget and fiscal integrity. And it just totally allows corporations and the federal government to run rampant with destroying our currency and destroying our culture nationally, but especially locally. And the evidence is here now because the cows have come home and people are seeing what's happening. So thank you as always for listening. And I hope you enjoy the article and my analogy with Becca, Balint, and the Eye of Sauron.